conversation, right? Once you get past the scatology, which is pretty frequent, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it greatly. So I'll read you a bit about Ferdy, naturally. But before that, there's a little passage which I find absolutely beautiful, which I'd like to read before I read Ferdy finding the letter. And I have it. No. Yeah, got it. Minutes pass. Oh, wait a minute. Correct. Minutes pass, he does not know how many. The wall clock is deep in the penumbra of the bed lamp glow, each tick more a tut-tut of disapproval. The second hand stuck in place, tripping over itself for eternity until the battery juices out. He turns to the window, which is just enough to let little air in. The colors of the night are coming. The velvety vine. Outside the window through which the comforting light of a new day gives Ferdinand the courage. Oh, you've already read this.
Please,
okay. No, I'll read the Ferdy piece because here we are. When he lights the wick, the flame flickers hungrily, sending out longer fingers of light into the gloom of his room, reaching out even beyond the halo of the Holy Family. You're supposed to light it in church in the presence of the Son of God, but this is an emergency. And the heir to the kingdom is right there anyway on his bedside table, 33 years younger, still a babe in his mother's arms, but carrying that benevolence in his innocent blue eyes. He does the recce, makes sure the pillow is in the exact center of the bed, makes sure the plastic water jar has the handle turned at precisely the right angle. Sounds like a Parsi to me. And the glass of water is by his bed on the floor. All is right with the world, he tells himself with a twinge of apprehension. The flame licks the air like a dog's tongue, hungrily feeding off the oils in the wax, shooting up tall and straight into the shadows that hang like a rain cloud over the bed. He can see the basin, the kitchenette, the door of the bathroom, the dining table and chairs. He can even make out the other body parts arranged neatly on the table surface, clustered around their own kind, segregated from the others. His eyes move counterclockwise groggily, sweeping past his front door, noting that it is triple locked, and moves onto the bookshelf next to it. All of a sudden, his attention snaps back to the right. Dread monkeys up his spine like a coconut picker shinning up a palm tree. Something long and white is coming in from under the triple-locked front door. Ferdy hears short, slithery sounds as it appears larger and larger. Then, with one final shh, it glides all the way in and stops. Even as his heart does hamstrings, he realizes it is only an envelope. But at this hour, he chews his lower lip. His eyelids feel heavy and his spine yearns for the embrace of the mattress, but now fear has pressed the pause button on his stupor. His brain goes through the usual computations of whether or not this can be life-threatening, as it does with all events in his life. But even at his paranoid worst, he cannot see anything sinister about an envelope. But at this hour, emboldened by the candle flame, he staggers a zigzag path to the front door, fumbles with the tumblers and yanks it open. He pokes his head out into the black night of Bogolim. Nothing moves. Some streetlights burn with feeble glows, others stutter, crickets confer busily, rodents squeak and cower as a hunter owl shrieks out a warning. But there is nothing out there that could have pushed that envelope under the door. Except for the sound. He pulls his head back in, shuts the door and waits. He counts to 10, eyes gleaming with excitement, swaying under the unsteady effect of the restill, then pulls the door open and thrusts his head out again. He squints, cranes his neck, not quite willing to actually step out into the black night. He almost nods off in that position, leaning like a drunk against the door frame. He retracts his head like a startled tortoise, slamming the door shut and triple locking it. He quickly snatches up the envelope from the floor and scurries over to the bed into the safety corona of the holy light. For the next 10 whole minutes, serenity seems to settle over the village. The soft sounds of families tucking themselves into bed, of lights being switched off with muffled clicks, of restful sighs and duvets being pulled up and heads sinking into pillows, of murmured conversations as bodies snuggle up against each other. And then it comes. The wail that slices through the air in all directions like a cluster bomb explosion. This, people will reflect much later, is the record breaker. It raises the bar for all time on human expression of grief and distress. They just lie pinned in their beds, stunned. The wail goes on and on. It arcs through the Pokulim sky, going in and out through open windows or any crack in the masonry that it can find, chilling bloods and firing imaginations. Joao's wife, Jacinta, huddles closer to him, her face white as a sheet, and wonders aloud, "Eh, Saiva, how long is his breath?" The arc of sound seems to hit a peak of sorts and then begins to subside. The villagers wait, light-headed from holding their breath. Down, down the sound goes, and then, as if effecting a bumpy landing, breaks up into a series of coughs and gurgles. Then there is a long silence. "He stopped," whispers Jacinta. Joao, who knows better, buries himself under his duvet a little more and ticks off the seconds. "Joao," she hisses, "maybe he died."
That was fantastic. Thank you. Can you just tell us a little bit about how hard it was to write that? I mean, we know that there's a story, and we know what the story is right in the beginning, but the writing process. Tell us a little bit about the process of actually writing this book.
So anyone who attends the first novel, this is for all of you out here, you will find that your initial effort is going to be something akin to verbal vomit.
And my problem is the opposite now, because I'm so used to finishing in 800 words without wasting a single word. All the descriptions that Kersi, flourishes on, I can't seem to do that. So I have to finish, and then I'll keep adding, okay, the sunset was turning, from a bruised purple to a mango yellow, whatever he does. But so for me, it's actually it's pretty much the opposite. I'm used to writing very succinctly. And, yeah.
So,
Take a few tips from you.
So Kersi, what is next? What's the book that's going to happen next, or what's the film that's going to happen next, or what's the collaboration that's going to happen? That's definitely a pointless conversation. Anyway, I'm going to cut it short because we're out of time. Can we have one last reading maybe before we put an end to
The
this?
consensus is it should end with you, Naseer. But whatever.
I found the last bit extremely moving, and I would like to read that. I asked Kersi if I should, and he said, I don't know because you're giving it away. But the fact is, it's not a murder mystery. I don't think we'll be giving anything away. But it's really, I was very, very moved by this bit. Rosie took care of everything. I tell them, made sure everyone came for the funeral. I think she went around to every house and yanked them out. She looks a bit hollow these days, like that enormous volume of flesh is slowly evaporating inside her. Her skin is flopping around the empty space. She cried the most. Her eyes were hot springs that continually gushed, her mouth forming a miserable little O. And when she looked up to the heavens, as though checking out Ferdy's next stop, she looked like a fat seal about to twirl a ball on her nose. Savio and Angie, they are still around, still fucking. Rosie doesn't know or doesn't care. Someday they'll marry, have kids, grow old, die. No big deal. I'm thinking of inventing a cocktail, I tell them, and naming it after Ferdy, calling it Ferdinand's Fling. Kind of sounds like Singapore sling, no? It's not going to be anything classy, just some coconut feni with 7-Up and mint and lemongrass and lime. Keep it simple yet strong, a bit like Ferdy was in his last days. In the middle of all the nudes, Tracy says, there was one portrait of a man, a thin, long face. That one, it fetched the most. Really? I say, giving them a hint. Story's over, you can now fuck off, pardon the French. Go back to your guest house, hotel, wherever. She says, critics say it was the most expressive, intense portrait seen this entire century or the last. No two views were ever the same. Some saw the most elegiac despair, bleakness. Others saw madness. Some likened it to a war victim photo, a man who had watched his entire family massacred. Others said it was a mass murderer looking slyly repentant. It fetched 468,000 pounds, she says. The fat nudes, they were the sideshow, said some critics, as if he was saving up his mojo for this masterpiece, she says. Rumor has it he did a whole series of them, maybe 5 or 6, but no one knows where they are. If they are found, they will be priceless. After he dies, even more. The man in the portrait, she says, looks like that man up there. She points to my wall. Looks like that painting. They leave. I clean up. Who would have thought, I muse, Ferdy and his daft love story. New leathery skin and fresh mojo notwithstanding, still Ferdinand. Invisible in a crowd of one. Insignificant as an appendix. Useless as a wet dick. Boring as a nun's dream. Irony, I tell myself, I will probably never sell that painting. But I may sell the others if I can get them back. I gave 2 to Angie, 1 to Rosie. The 2 Angie has, one of them is of a man shuffling down a road, bent over with defeat, yet going on. The other, a thin, tall man staring into the coffin of an enormous lady. They give me goose flesh every time I look at them. The look and expression on that man's face. Experts will join the dots, say it's the same guy, the one that went for, how much? Alive, worth 468,000 pounds. Dead, 3 times that. Bloody hell. I should have such choices for everything in my life. Rosie has made hers into a shrine. Candles and incense and fresh flowers every day. The most expensive shrine in the world. Not from the candle giving it that old gritty feel over the years. Of an old man. Of an old man singing in a choir. His face etched with lines of devotion and bliss. Staring up into some golden halo, light into the high recesses of the church. All I told Don Pedro was, no nudes, so he gave me the others. I can easily wait for the fucker to die if I'm greedy. He won't last long in retirement. Guys like him, they're like great whales, great whites, need to keep moving, otherwise they die. Water stops moving past their gills, they die. But waiting might be a folly now. I must try and get the other paintings back somehow before the girl, what's her name? Tracy, before she goes back and shows her art teachers the photo. The photo of the portrait on the wall. Before the collectors and gallery owners and art thieves from all over the world descend upon my little village, sniffing around houses, pulling stuff off walls, tearing down shrines.